It's the Anfield Wrap. Neil Atkinson, Gareth Roberts, Rob Gutmann and Charlotte Campbell with me for the next hour to talk about Liverpool 3, Arsenal 1 and other matters arising from that sort of thing. And first thing to take from it really is that it's a strong showing from Liverpool, Rob. While simultaneously, I'm not sure if they ever properly, maybe 15 minutes in the first half, ever properly got out of fourth gear and were able to beat a contender for the top 4 places in the end by 2 clear goals.
I don't know what gear we got out of, actually, Neil, because I think we're taking it for granted just how well we play in these kind of games when the challenge is in front of us. I think we're proper. If that's fourth gear, it's a high octane fourth gear because we absolutely blitzed them, but we got the job done. And once again, it felt like, I mean, okay, we probably played better against Spurs, and Spurs could have been 4-0 down at half time. And that was a better performance than the Arsenal one. But we play really well against Arsenal then. And the good thing is that we control a game that may go against us for a little bit. I don't know. I wouldn't be decrying it in any way, shape or form.
I'm not decrying it.
You are in a roundabout way. You're diminishing it, shall we say. No, I think it was a really, really good Liverpool performance. I mean, fate deals us a hand with them getting a goal back, but at the end of the day, we deal with that. Come away, get our goal, and what a heroic Anfield moment that is.
Well, we'll come on to the third goal in a minute, Charlotte. One of the things to take when Rob sort of says there, they get the goal. They do get the goal, but then when you look at it back, the game, you notice that there was a couple of little surges from Bellerin late on in the second half, but there wasn't really a point where you thought, oh no, we're really up against it now. He's having to make save after save after save. We still seemed in command. You felt like, the third's fantastic, but you feel as though Liverpool would have won 2-1 anyway.
Yeah, and I'm usually one to panic. If we go 2-1, usually my head's gone and I think, right, that's it. I didn't even have that this game. I just thought, right, fine, 2-1. I'm annoyed that we haven't kept the 2-0, but I think that had a lot to do with there were early tackles from Lallana that stopped everything. There were times where they could have broke and we would have been gone, and it would have been like what it has been against Swansea. But Lallana went in on quite a few midfielders quite early on to stop every single break they could have had.
The aggression from Lallana was noticeable, certainly in the first half, Gareth, and it was Liverpool were set up a little differently. Wijnaldum was a bit deeper. He was helping Chan a bit more. But what that meant Lallana had to pick his moments to go, win the ball back, cut off supply, cut off lanes. I think his performance for the first hour, and then he's fabulous for the goal. His performance for the first hour was about as good as he's played in red.
Yeah, I thought he was tremendous. I'm a fan of his anyway. I know some people aren't, and that sort of clouds the judgment a little bit. Perhaps I'm the other way, and perhaps I've given him too much... good vibes sometimes, but no, I thought he was brilliant, and he, all the stuff that Klopp said afterwards, he leads the press, he led by example. We know that he can do all the fancy stuff, the Cruyff turns, the through balls, he can hit a good shot, but just, it's a thing I've said before loads of times, that when you go to match, like the very least I want to see from all of them is 100% effort, like leave the pitch with nothing left, and that's exactly what he did, and I think his performance leads other people to perform in the same way, in the same manner, and Arsenal just couldn't get going. I mean, they had the ball, but I never felt threatened by them, and I wonder how much their spirit was affected by the whole Sanchez thing as well. It was probably a good time to face them in respect of that, because before the game's even kicked off, as soon as you see he's not in the team, he's by far their best player there, and to not see him in the team, given what he's done in the Premier League this season, then it's 1-0 to Liverpool in a way already, and then they can't get out. I thought it was quite mad that they had Giroud on the pitch and then don't really play to Giroud's strengths very much, and it did feel fairly comfortable to me. I wasn't impressed by Arsenal at all. I mean, I know they're obviously a good side and they are where they are in the league, and it was a crucial one for us to win, but no, I didn't feel like at any point that we were going to lose the game once we were 1-0 up, really. I mean, I think it helps us, obviously, to score so early as well. I think, we all come out of there bouncing and made up, not least by that third. But it went well for Liverpool in terms of Liverpool's confidence. I mean, I think if you go 1-0 down after the way things have gone recently, then that would have been a completely different test. They looked like they felt sorry for themselves a little bit at Leicester. This went the other way, and it ended up being one of them roaring home performances, and everyone's now, bolted that onto other performances against big teams and saying, well, can Liverpool do it against Burnley now and all that sort of thing.
I think, and I hope I'm going to be proved right here because we're going to beat Burnley, that we will rephrase this algorithm that we're good against the good, bad against the bad, and look at it about preparation time, but not just we need loads, we need the right balance of preparation time. I felt that 16 odd days or whatever it was, there was a risk there that it would make it weird. It could have made it good, weird, or bad.
Arsenal have had a break as well, haven't they? 12, I think.
Yeah, so maybe maybe they're affected. That's not our problem.
No.
I think we'll come to see this. I mean, how good are we against the good? Bad are we against the bad? Well, I'm not sure. We'll have to balance up the statistics at the end of the season. We've had a very bad run, and I think that distorts it. People weren't saying we can't play against little teams in the autumn when we were beating them all over the shop.
You add to that because that is the narrative, and I've stopped that too. But actually, we've played the bad teams at the wrong times because we played Swansea when they had the revival from Clement. We have Leicester when they've got the bounce. So
Hull.
So start of the season, we were putting these guys to bed. Watford was, what was it, 6-0, 6-1, something like that.
6-1, yep.
I think that's become a bit of a narrative, and it probably sticks in the player's head because it just feels like, all right, here we go again. Right, fine, easy, we can beat Arsenal. But that's just, it's not logical to say, yeah, we can be amazing against the best teams, but we're just terrible against the bad teams. There is a logic to football.
I think what it's been painted at is as though we have a tactical problem. Is if a team comes at us and they're open, we can play well. It's not actually a factor of them being good. It's the fact that they're open and that our attacking setup works for that. But this notion, again, the notion that we can't play against the bus parkers, the lesser sides, is also a construct of January, because we could play against the bus parkers pre-Christmas, relentlessly. In fact, we were celebrating how well we were playing against them for a while. And I almost think some of our views distorted by a number of games in January, the 2 Plymouths, the Wolves and the 2 Southamptons, where we score, I think, 2 goals in 5 or 6 fixtures. And we did look blunt, but we were, at no time did we have a full complement of our front. In fact, I don't think we ever had more than 2 of our front 4 in action at any one time. So that distorts the picture. That's not to say there've been other days. I think you look at the likes of Hull and Leicester, that's not about bus parking. That's about us being shit and underconfident, to use a technical
It's about
term.
bad. I mean, loads of the games that Liverpool have lost as well. I just felt like there's a lot of bad decision making on the day and not a lot of discipline in terms of how they were playing. And I thought both of those things against Arsenal, they were disciplined in terms of the shape. You could see the shape all the way through. It was solid, it was there. Arsenal were ragged at times. They were terrible on that first goal, which is fantastic for us. But I don't know what they're doing when they're defending that ball. It comes from a minion goal kick. You shouldn't concede there.
I think one of the things, though, is that we can beat these smaller teams earlier on in the season. And I think there is something in the fact that early on in the season, they've got less to play for. They don't know how their season's going to go, so they can afford to be a bit more open. When the season goes on and you get past January, they're now looking at relegation. So they're thinking, we've got to sit back, we can't be open. And there is something in it that in those times, a team like our team, we're going to get counter-attacked on because we go all forward and they can then counter. So there is something in that. But I think the way that you fix that is we've got those teams, they're happy to let our fullbacks and our defensive mids, they're happy to let them have the ball because there's not much attacking threat in them. So if I'm going down to recruitment again, but if you could get fullbacks who have got a bit more attacking threat, then you can't just let them have the ball. You couldn't let a Milner and a Klein sit with it.
Also, and this is what Gareth mentions there, go back to you on this, Charlotte, when he said that, discipline in Liverpool's shape was important, but also the other thing that he said, and I think it's the key thing, and I think it's completely nailed on with the Mane goal. Liverpool's decision making, I thought, was far better. It was far better against Arsenal, and in fact, I think it's been far better against. And I think if you are looking at the mental side of this, I think Liverpool's decision making has been better in the bigger games. They'll be making better, smarter decisions, whether they're more switched on, whether it's more open. But for instance, the Firmino pass for the Mane goal is a pass that nobody in the ground sees. Nobody in the ground thinks this is the thing to do here. Everybody's saying shoot wherever they're sat, top of the stand, bottom of the stand. And that, I think, is what you see better in these games. And you see it better, you mentioned there, from the fullbacks as well, the defensive midfielders. Everyone's decision-making, I think, has been better in these games.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, Klopp said it himself. He said we're a lot more compact. It might be that in the bigger games, we are a lot more compact. We're a lot tighter because we're more nervous of what they can do on the counter. So we stay a lot more compact. Lallana can step out. He triggers the press and we all go together. Whereas in the smaller games, we've been... recently, especially, we've been going to the wings, doing crosses in, and it's been a lot more loose.
Yeah, I think I think in the bigger games, because it's faster, you play on instinct. It's when we're stopping to think that we're making bad decisions. I don't know. Maybe it's taking the extra touch that you do because against the deeper teams makes you that apply that with that thought process. Look, it's as old as football itself that teams raise their levels against big sides, but we've done more than raise levels. As Klopp made an interesting point. He said, why is it a problem that we can beat all the big sides? Not just the odd big game, we can beat all the big sides. I think we've got something ridiculous like 19 points from 27 against the top six. It's crazy. That's not just it's not just an aberration. I think what he was saying is I'd rather have the job of fixing how to beat the shit than having to be able to beat the big sides. And not long may it continue, but I agree.
I think there's something in that as well, because I mean, we all hope, or I would hope we all hope that we're playing Champions League football next season, and if we are, the likelihood is you play decent sides, and if we've got a record of beating decent sides, it's not a bad thing to take into the Champions League. And the likelihood in cups as well, the likelihood is that when it gets to the business end, you're playing big sides, and so if you're able to beat big sides on a regular basis and not get knocked out by crap ones, but that's a good habit. That's a good thing to develop.
Under Rafa, actually, with a different tactical setup, we developed that habit in a way. He had managed to make us so compact and so disciplined, I think, against those big sides that we were always ready to win a game and protect the nil that we had. This side goes at it from a different approach. It goes, well, we're just so devastatingly quick on the counter. So the fact that it's a big game, you're going to be vulnerable to us. I thought it's a big weekend in the Champions League qualification stakes, by the way.
Come on to that in a minute. I want to go back to what Gareth was saying there with reference to this game about sort of that focus and that ability against these good sides. I thought right the way through the middle of the pitch, you saw good performances from the Reds. Matip, Emre Can, Wijnaldum, Lallana, Firmino, Klavan.
Yeah.
I think they all impress through that spine. I think that's where Liverpool win the game. They win the game through virtue of what each of those players are doing, and they're all quite difficult to deal with and to counter in their own way. Especially, we'll start with the front man on this one. Firmino he's occupying both centre halves all the way through the game. They don't know where he is. He's also pulling in a defensive midfielder. He plays in that little half space that they don't like, and suddenly that's. When he gets on the ball, he's, apart from one awful time he gave it away, he's unbelievably neat and tidy, shifting it around the place. It's quite...
That's their goal, isn't it?
It's their goal, yeah. He's chasing back. He's quite, he's... I was really impressed with him at the weekend again, and it's not for the first time this season. It's not for the first time this year. I think there is a bit of a thing that's grown up around him, that he's had a bad few months. I actually don't think he has. He just hasn't had a great few months. I think he still, for instance, scores 2 against Swansea and looks really lively, but he's so impressive.
On Saturday, he is. I think some of the criticism that's come his way is simply about figures. If he's playing through the middle for Liverpool, I'd think he should be getting a few more goals here and there. And as much as he played well on Saturday, I'm still like, I don't know. He's not absolutely 100% clinical. I don't think, in terms of in front of goal. Always, do you know what I mean? Regularly, consistently. What he is brilliant at, and what I thought he was great at on Saturday, is he's just a great out. You give it to him, he hardly ever gives it away, and he's hard to get off the ball, and he gets Liverpool out. He'll take one or two sometimes in his own half, then he lays it off, and then he's away, and that's so important to get you out, to get you on the. That's where Arsenal struggled, I thought. They never. Giroud wasn't doing anything for them. He just ended up standing there on his tot up front, lame duck, not providing anything to the game really. Whereas, we had the energy of Firmino, and he was fantastic. The ball you mentioned as well, superb. Even the goal as well. I've not heard many people sort of talk about that. I think it was just sort of taken as a given, but he finishes that well to get the lift on it, to get it over the keeper. It's perhaps not as easy as people think.
Do you think the touch is deliberate that takes it, because it puts the defender on his arse, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Some people think that's a slightly askew touch. I'd like to think he almost meant that to put the.
Well, his touch in general is amazing, isn't it?
It's incredible.
I mean that was what I think Klopp referenced it after Leicester, saying you sort of knew it wasn't our day there in a way, when there was one where he had, it's ran off 4 yards when he's trying to bring it down, and you're like, that's not him.
That's not him, no.
His hold-up play is a bit underrated as well. Wasn't he involved in the hold-up play for his goal? I swear he headed it out and then it came back to him. He was doing that all over the pitch. He's a lot better at that than people give credit for. I know that people say, and you're one of them, that you want a big man to hold it up like a Chris Wood or something like that. But Firmino does that better than you think, and when
Very
it comes
much so.
together, it went really well on Saturday.
And that's an important thing to point out is what the pair of you saying there, Gareth and Charlotte, in terms of the fact that he is coming deep and he does link it up and he holds it and he spins. And I think that, you know, he's very good, as we discussed on our immediate post-match show, as Ben Johnson points out. He's very good at that little shove that just gets him 2 yards. Suddenly, and this is my thing on Firmino is, and I said it and I'm going to keep saying it, is that I'm tired of the talk that he's not a number 9. He's a number 9. Now, he might be a number 9 who maybe doesn't score enough goals, but he's a number 9. He's not this idea that he can come and play your game 20 yards deeper. He just can't. He doesn't. That's not who he is, or the sort of player that he is for me. I think that's. And
he doesn't enjoy it.
Doesn't enjoy it. No, and I think he likes that. He wants all of this battle that you're referring to, in terms of he wants to beat his centre halves, he wants to be stronger than them, he wants to win his headers. That's what he is, and I think the only reason, I think there's a couple of reasons, but I think that the main reason why there's still sort of conversations around him, as though the manager himself said he's a centre forward, this fella. He is a centre forward. He's a forward who plays in the centre. He is a centre forward. And if we're going to play 4-3-3 and we're going to have Roberto Firmino on the books, then that for me is where he plays. And then everything else becomes a conversation around what alternatives to him you want, or what you want around him. And on the numbers thing, I take your general point, but to me, he looks like someone who could next season turn around and bang 20. He could get 20 league goals. It wouldn't surprise if you said to me right now he gets 20 league goals next season, I wouldn't be laughing it out there.
Is he on 9 now though?
He's on 9 or 10.
I think he's just hit double figures. I'll come and play devil's advocate here. I think I'm a massive fan of his, and I don't disagree that his numbers are potentially big. I think his numbers were brilliant at one point last season and coming into the early part of this season. The reason I don't think he scores truly prolifically is he doesn't get enough shots away in a game. He's not actually looking to, and that's why I don't think he's a natural centre forward. And I don't think this is a bad thing, by the way. I think he's a central fulcrum attacking player. He's not a wide player. Some games he's number 10. Sometimes he is a 9 at times. Against Swansea, it was a classic 9 performance, and sometimes he's a hybrid of the two. But I mean, what's interesting for Coutinho gets, I don't know what the stats are, but I'd imagine Coutinho gets more shots away than Firmino the other day. And I think that often happens. I think Firmino, there are days where Firmino's the one who's getting the shots away. There are days where Mane's the one getting the shots away. That's what I think what's worked so well about that front three. Yes, it's right to say Firmino's central, but whether we can ever fully say you're the striker, I don't know. He's a complex, sophisticated
He's a centre
player.
forward, not a striker. And that's not, but I mean, words mean things. He is a forward who plays. He's a forward who plays through the centre. He is not a striker. He's not Harry Kane. And the frustration with him is that he's not Harry Kane and he's not Lukaku. Well, he's not. No. But he's doing all these other things that they do to a certain extent. Kane more so than Lukaku. But if you've got a decision to make. You either, for instance, here's a much better example. Jermaine Defoe is a striker.
Yeah.
But he barely touches the ball. If he's not in the penalty area about to stick it in the back of the net, he barely touches the ball.
Yeah.
And I don't think we want Jermaine Defoe to be playing every single week for Liverpool. We don't want that because we know we need all of our players to contribute all the time, Gareth. So I think you end up in a situation where you've got a decision to make, really. If we can go and get someone who can do everything that he does as a footballer, everything that you see him do against Arsenal, and who happens to also be Harry Kane in terms of the goal return, then obviously you buy him. That's a no-brainer situation. You go and buy a player who's absolutely phenomenal. But I think that's something we're going to have to sort of get to grips with collectively. The manager wants this fella to do all this. He believes in the suitability. He believes in this process. Yeah. This is what he wants. He wants this fella. And so the idea of someone who gets more shots off, but they're not going in as much, they're not going in because, and he's not really offering anything else for him. It's not what he's going to want. And so I think, if he can go and get Lewandowski as an example and it works for whatever reason, I think he'll do it. But I don't think he's going to compromise on that unless he gets the all-rounder.
No, it's a suitability to style thing, isn't it? I mean, that's why Sturridge hasn't got his game as much as Firmino's got his game, and and at the same time as well, it seems. I mean, I guess I'm contradicting myself a little bit here, but I look at Firmino's figures, and as I say to myself, well, he's playing through the centre for Liverpool. We create a lot of chances. We're not shy on scoring goals. Why doesn't he get more of them? But then we're not shy on scoring goals. There isn't a problem in scoring goals. Mane's got 12. And he's not playing centre forward.
He's missed a month.
So it's what?
And he missed a month.
And he missed a month. Yeah. So I mean, there isn't a problem with scoring goals per se. It doesn't seem.
Well, I would slightly disagree with that, and now I'm arguing against myself. And isn't it fun when we all have a lovely time?
Footy's not easy.
Footy's not easy because, Charlotte, the thing is that what Liverpool don't do. Liverpool should be 3-0 up at half-time against Arsenal. Liverpool should be taking the game away from Arsenal, which is, for instance, what someone like Harry Kane does for you. Is from either side of half-time against Stoke, he just takes the game away from Stoke. The football match is no longer any of their concern. It's all done, and that's where maybe what Liverpool need to be better at, whether that's with one player who's more prolific, whether it's Coutinho misses a couple of one's very well saved, but a couple of very good chances in there. Liverpool do need to be able to. And also be able to score against adversity, against the smaller sides where it's been difficult this season. That's what's been lacking, really. Not the idea of goals. There's goals. Liverpool put the ball in the back of the net, but it's all the other bits.
Yeah, it's just about what you sacrifice in order to get that man on the pitch. Because I'm looking at people. I saw calls for people like Llorente to be brought in because of what he can do. Have you said that?
No, all the others did that.
Yeah,
I'd have Llorente tomorrow, but I'd never start.
What, as an option?
Never start.
As an option, which I think is what he's sort of trying to do with Origi. But to be honest, I still don't think that's what we need. And I know it is an argument, but I'd be looking at people like Aguero, which sounds mad right now, but Aguero's been out of favour for a long
He's
while.
not going to want to come be number 2 to Bobby Firmino, though.
So him and Sanchez as our squad players.
Yeah,
I like
Sanchez
that.
can be on the bench.
Sanchez and Aguero is a whole new dawn. Yeah.
Well, Sanchez is the dream. Sanchez does everything that you want him to do in terms of what Firmino can do. He tracks back, and yet he's a bit more clinical than Firmino.
Can't Liverpool just bid 50 million and a penny just for the needle?
I'd buy Sanchez and I'd play him left wing. Because I actually think, and this is where I always end up with this conversation, I actually think the problem's Coutinho. And I think the problem's Coutinho because I think you're able to look at Mane and think he could get you 15 to 20. You can look at Firmino and think he'll get you 13 to 20. The Coutinho issue is that he doesn't look like he's going to get you 15. And if your front three contribute 45 to 60, if that's the ballpark you want to be in, I don't think Coutinho is going to function as part of that. And I thought you saw the same at the weekend. It's Coutinho, who, as I say, it's partially because he does brilliantly to kill the ball the way in which he does. So it feels like it's unfair, but he should then score.
So you're playing Coutinho in the midfield?
And then use him as a midfield. Well, use him as an option across the board. You've got we've got thinking we're going to have loads of games. We want to be in the Champions League. We want to be able to get a result against Porto on Wednesday night and beat Burnley in the 12:30 kickoff on Saturday. The way to do that is to be able to make 3 or 4 of your front 4 change 2, maybe 3 with quality options. And for me, that's where
he might be wrong in his goals per minute. I tell you what Coutinho's one of the biggest problems.
He was on until he scores a consolation against Leicester. He was on none in 11. I'm quite comfortable with my criticism.
Okay, look over the last 24 months. I'll do a goal. If you do it goals per minute, and then if you assume he had a fit season, he'll get you your 15. In fact, I'll guarantee you that without even looking at him. One of the biggest problems we've had with Coutinho is he's proven he has injury-prone spells, and then he has that comeback phase, which is difficult, where he's protecting his body a little bit. But before the injury, he's got about 9 or 10, hasn't he, or 8 or 9?
I think he's only got 5 or 6 league.
Okay, I'm thinking all comps then. But still, I'm looking at goals. Let's have a look afterwards. We'll settle this one. But I'm pretty sure if you gave him a full season, you get you 15 goals.
I don't want to give him a full season. I expect that the cut and thrust of that lads are going to get injured. They're going to be in and out. They're not going to play all the league games. I'm saying that Liverpool need to feel from those front 3 positions they can get 45 to 60. Whoever's filling them, and that's the question at the minute. And that's the Firmino question is that, if you know what I mean. Because if then you're not able to do that, then it becomes, well, you're better off just basically looking for one lad who gets you 25, 30, and hope that other lads chip in. And that's literally, and again, as Gareth says, there's no easy answers. This is literally managers making a decision week in, week out.
Do you think Liverpool would do it? I mean, like say, Charlotte says Aguero, and I'd go to town for a week if we bought Aguero, but I don't think it's going to happen for a number of reasons. But one of them is that he'd cost absolute top whack, and therefore, what's Liverpool's budget in the summer? I don't know. No one knows, but that'd be a big chunk of it. And when you're already scoring goals, like we were just talking about, then you're not going to go and spend 60 on Aguero, as much as we'd all love it. And I think, I liked what Klopp said after the game about, we all got carried away. I went to town and I was out till 4 in the morning, which wasn't the plan. But, it felt like a while, even though it wasn't that long. But you know what I mean? It felt like well, thank fuck we won there. Do you know what I mean?
It's only 2 wins in 2017. You've got to enjoy these nights.
Exactly, yeah. So it just sort of felt like, a big let-off that we'd won. Felt really important in terms of the season and keeping the season alive. And so, yeah, why not? But sort of, Klopp said something along the lines of, like, as much as, you could have said we'd sell everyone after Leicester, that doesn't now mean they're all brilliant either. And he sort of said, like, the truth lies somewhere in between. And I think where it still worries me slightly, if I'm to go a little bit negative about what I saw, is what Charlotte said before about the full-back still. I wonder whether, playing a right-footed fella on the left all season is starting to come to pass a little bit, because there's so many times he checks to go the other, and you just think if he'd had a left-footer there, putting it in first time, we might have one or two more chances here. Same on the other side, Klein, I like him, he's solid, he's reliable. When he gets in that final third, though, he's frustrating, I think.
He struggled the most on the weekend, Klein. I'm a big fan of Klein, and he is really, really consistent, but I think he struggles. And still attacking, I'm not sure about him. And even Milner, I thought Milner had a good game, but he got shown a few... I know Klein was he was up against Sanchez, so that's hard. Milner got shown a few times by people like Bellerin. And
Bellum's got tons of pace.
He's got tons of pace, but
it
was pulling the midfield back towards Milner, and I think he struggled.
The interesting thing is that to criticise both of them, I think, is harsh, and the reason why I think it's harsh is because Sanchez comes on with a point to prove, and he sets up one goal, but he doesn't get a lot out of Klein. And I take the wider point about, obviously we want our full-backs to be Cafu going one way and Jamie Carragher going the other, but I think he got his job done second half, Klein. But Milner, I agree. I thought that part of the result of moving Origi, bringing Coutinho off, was that suddenly Firmino looked like he was struggling massively with Bellerin going past him. The midfield's all having to work harder over, so that shape slightly pulled out, and Milner's getting done for pace. And I think that the Milner concern, for me, it's not even the right foot. For me, it's that you can have a bad 10 minutes up against a lad who's quick. A lad who's quick can do.
He was running back
towards
goal quite a few times.
Yeah, can hurt him.
Well, it's that he can be. There's a risk that he gets laced going that way, and there's little chance that he laces his man going the other way. A quick full. You know what? There's not a lot Danny Rose wouldn't put right for us as a fullback. He's not that quick, James Milner.
No, I think he's good at getting past people.
Yeah, he's not bad.
Weird at getting past people. Like, he does it very, very slowly, like he's going through treacle, but he can't get the ball off him.
I know, and that helps if he's got one of the front three there to sort of overload with him in that position. Look, I mean, I don't know who no one springs readily to mind, but I think we can often not overplay how unimportant the full-back position is. I wonder in a system like Klopp's just how important it is in an attacking sense, as much as any of you have.
But you saw at the weekend that, you talk about a system like Klopp's, Gareth, and again, it pulls us back to talking about Firmino, to talking about Lallana. You can't carry any passengers, and I think that's been a bit of a problem for us in the other games, but let's talk about this game, is that you got to see that when this Liverpool side plays well, and I think that this is what they do to the opposition, what it means is suddenly the opposition can't carry any passengers either. Xhaka doesn't get 20 minutes to sort himself out and play himself into shape. You look right the way across the pitch there. Welbeck doesn't get the chance to influence the game in any way, shape or form. He can't come in and get involved and get stuck in, and I think that's the thing about this Liverpool side when it is all motoring, when it's pairing, and certainly through the middle of the pitch. No one can be carried on the opposition side, but these Liverpool lads have all got to be at it all game as well.
Yeah, and when they are at it, like as you say, they're a nightmare, Liverpool, to deal with. I mean, as much as I'm happy to slaughter Arsenal for that performance, because as I said earlier, I didn't see anything there that worried me, and if I was an Arsenal fan, I would be worried. But yeah, I think Liverpool, when they're on it like that, very hard to deal with. And like you said, there was no passengers, was there? I mean, the worrying one, I think the one we were all talking about before you go in the ground and everything else, when you're chatting through the team with your mates, everyone's a bit like, Emre Can, not sure about him, turns like the Titanic, all the usual ones. But I thought he was brilliant. I was made up with him. Like, really solid performance, good attitude, good character, getting stuck in,
tactically switched on.
The yellow, following people all the way down almost into full-back positions and winning the ball there as well, everywhere. And being a leader as well. You've seen him talking a lot and stuff like that. And, not only the other week on this, I think we were talking about, when Henderson's not about, who is a leader? And it was Milner, wasn't it, with the armband, but he's not particularly vocal for me. He's more a leader by, he's solid, he's reliable, he's always there. He's played for a lot of top clubs and he's played a lot of football, but he's not an organiser, he's not a shouter. Emre Can had the bit between his teeth, and like Lallana, that sets a tone for the rest of the team.
I think he was out tactically, because I think we changed a little bit, as I said before.
Yeah,
first half, Wijnaldum's close to him, closer than either of them when they played had been to Henderson. They're helping him out. There was a clear sort of path. I think second half it actually becomes a bit more 4-3-3, and at times you're worried we're going to get overloaded in there. That's one of the reasons why he ends up taking the fantastic yellow, which the referee really should have blown for, because he should have admired the aesthetic, that everything had to come together for that moment to be perfect. But one of them, I thought that we didn't maybe help him as much then, and I was worried about him. You know, he could have got a second yellow, but I thought he was terrific, and I think that again the value of helping a player play through a game a little bit came through for me, rather than just basically tossing them all in and saying you've all got to be 8 out of 10 here lads all game. If not, we're in a bit of bother.
No, Wijnaldum really helped him, I think, and I thought he was great again. You know, not just in terms of putting it in the net either, you know, just being clever, knowing when to go, all over the pitch. I mean, look where he runs from for that goal as well. But, you know, he's a really intelligent player, him, and I think, you know, what are we, 6 months into a 9-month season, and I think right now, you know, it's crucial for every player in that squad to show why they should be here and why they're important, because plans will already be underway, I would have thought, as to what they're going to do in the summer, starting to sound people out and all the rest of it. I don't think Wijnaldum has to worry. I think Wijnaldum has been a good buy. He's someone you build around. He's someone you keep. He's someone who can play in a number of positions and in a number of different ways. He's one of the clever players that we keep talking about. We need. He's proven every week to me that he is a clever player. Mane's another one where there's absolutely no doubt that you're keeping him. You know, his place isn't up for any question. Absolutely superb once he got going. I thought a little bit of a slow start, but some of the others, you know, there is question mark, and Emre Can's one of them. I think. I mean, I don't think it's unfair to suggest that maybe Klopp's not sure about him.
I think Klopp loves him. I think he's Klopp's favourite. He came out after the game and he said the only player that came out with any credit whatsoever after Leicester was Emre Can.
Yeah.
I think there's no way that he gets rid of Can.
I think we're forgetting with Emre Can a couple of things. He started
his age.
Well, yeah, he's relatively young still for a central midfield player. He starts the season, but for injury, in pole position for the number 6.
He says he's carrying an injury as well, didn't he?
Well, maybe he has also. I mean, Jordan Henderson nicks that position off him and does exceptionally well. But March to April, May last season, Can owns that position. We're all gutted when he gets injured. Yeah. He's heroic when he comes. Neil, you can shake your head. He played very, very well.
Pulling a face rather than shaking my head.
Well,
he's terrific in the second leg against Villarreal, but he's not playing the same position that Jordan Henderson's playing. Jordan Henderson's on his own, but it was more 4-2-3-1. He had someone next to him. What I think's really, and we'll never know the answer. Just on this, you're saying he was in pole position. I think that the manager's decided that if he can get Henderson fit, that's where he's going to play him. I think he's decided at the start of the summer, by virtue of the fact that there was talk of Dahoud, but there wasn't a real attempt to sort of go and snap anybody up. So I take you, that's what I'm pulling a face at. I'm not saying that Emre Can wasn't very good at times last season, but even where I think one of the reasons why I think he has a good game against Arsenal is that it's a bit more 4-2-3-1-ish. He has got someone close to him. It's clear how the manager does want to play with a fella who can cover both sides and is more mobile than Can. Not to take anything away from his performance, and also I'd be really disappointed if he left Liverpool in the summer. Really, really disappointed. I think he's a really good player, but that's why I was pulling a face.
I think
on face watch.
This is the joy of radio. I think there's interesting degrees of question mark against both him and Wijnaldum. They've both got really high ceilings. But if we're to go to the next phase, they both have to show that in all environments, in all situations, all type of games, they can be what we need. Can, having been on a fast upward curve last season, whether it's been injury or not, has dipped this season. And it was the first sign of a real comeback against us, but only the first sign. Well, actually, let's give him Leicester as well. Wijnaldum, you know, the interesting about Wijnaldum is Wijnaldum's had some games where we've come out purring. This was another one. But Wijnaldum away from home is not far off the Wijnaldum of Newcastle, the guy who scores at home, and sometimes you wonder where he is away from home. And I know that's a bit of a cliche and probably a bit harsh on him, but if I think about the great Wijnaldums for us, they've all been home performances. So I think he has to find a complete version of himself, and I think Can does as well. Otherwise, there could be squad
players. He was very good at Chelsea, Wijnaldum.
In the away game?
Yeah.
Can't remember that far back.
Don't you think he's asked different things of Wijnaldum though? Because
sure.
I mean, one of the things that like against City, against Arsenal, Wijnaldum stands out and he's great, and as you say, we're all pairing about him. But like, I think it was it the FA? Did he play in the FA Cup game? Wolves.
Yeah, I think he did.
I think he might have done. It might be that one I'm thinking of. I might be wrong, but there was a game where he sat in the middle, hardly moved, and played loads of short passes left and right. And I remember speaking to my mate afterwards, and I'm like, I can't believe that he's making the decision to play that way of his own you know, his own thinking. It must be the manager said, I want you to sit and do that. That's your job today. Because remember, he was, you know, he came with a reputation as being like a 10, and then we sort of reinvented them, haven't we? And it seems like for different games, different opponents, he's been asked to do different jobs at times, and I almost whether that's been to the detriment, but I think I think he hardly ever wastes the ball. And he always seems to be in the right place. And he's another one where he's another tone setter for me as well. Like he uses his physicality quite well at times, which
he's got a really low
I
centre
enjoy
of
watching.
gravity, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Other one to mention when you mentioned Uman and Aram before when you're looking at the team sheet, Charlotte, is the Clavan selection. Brings him in ahead of Lucas, and I think there's a couple of moments where both centre-halves could do a little bit better. I think they're not necessarily great straight after half-time, but then when Liverpool do calm themselves down, I think that across the course of the whole game, they both do play really rather well.
Yeah, I haven't got too much to say on Clavan other than I thought he was great. It's been a bit of a worry because we've been putting Clavan in and then he's not worked out, so we put Lucas in, Lucas hasn't worked out, and you sort of wonder where you go from there. Because really, I think Lovren and Matip are probably the dreams, well, the ideal selection, but I thought Clavan was great all game, really, really calm, worked well with Matip.
I agree. I think it's been a bit harsh on Clavan, the sort of putting him to bed that I think a lot of us have done in the last couple of months. He has a couple of, is it Southampton away in the League Cup where he's culpable, and then his reputation seems to fall off a cliff, having been a real more than steady Eddie centre half for us. I was surprised that Klopp obviously felt the same way, I think, that most people did, and he fell off a cliff in Klopp's mind as well, because although I understood Lucas coming in against Spurs, I was surprised at his selection against Leicester. It was a different kind of game. But that was good for Clavan. I think he's a really good squad centre-half, and I like him a lot. There was a point I would have almost preferred him to Lovren in the course of this season. I thought there was better balance between him and Matip, but I am looking forward to seeing Lovren back.
Still think we need another centre-back.
I agree, totally.
Yeah.
Totes.
Okay. Anyone else I wanted to get on to? We've covered Lallana really quite nicely. Well, one other thing, actually, first half, Rob. Something we hadn't seen a lot of this season, and it's interesting if something falls in this game. I thought we wouldn't. People were saying that Arsenal were direct. I didn't think Arsenal were that direct. I thought we were direct. I thought you saw more of us going really quite long from the back. Mentioned before, the opening goals comes from a Mignolet goal kick. We seemed to have and again, I think it's completely tactical, the desire to go long, allow second balls to happen, back ourselves to either win the second ball or no to get back in shape, and that sort of mixing it up is actually something that we haven't seen. We don't really do that against Spurs even, I thought it was the most direct I can remember seeing. It reminded me a little bit of our performance against Leicester at home last season.
Yeah, it was more direct. I thought we were less fearful about losing the ball, and I think we realised that losing the ball is an asset for us at times because it allows us to press and get it back. The feature of our attacking play in the first half was we were able to break at will, and you can only break at will if you've lost the ball, and you're brave enough to lose the ball and be direct. Do you know what it looked to me in that first half? Not a million miles different from how we were against Arsenal when we beat them in that 5-1. You even think about that first goal we score. It's not that different to the one Raheem Sterling scores. Is that the second or the third?
It's the third.
Yeah, it reminded me of that. Arsenal made all the same mistakes they made that day. And I agree. I thought Arsenal were meant to be being more. I think their plan was to give themselves an out ball with Giroud and have the three runners behind him because they all had pace, didn't they? Is it Welbeck,
Oxlade, Chamberlain, and Iwobi.
And Iwobi. So it was all runners. It was all pace. So that was. But if anything, we seemed to drop 10 yards deep. Certainly we dropped deeper than we were against Leicester. So I wouldn't exactly say we invited them onto us, but I thought we were happy enough for them to come onto us because they were mired very quickly in that midfield swamp that we put in front of them, as you say, with a two rather than a one with Chan and Wijnaldum, and we were nice and compact. And you just thought, well, but when we came out, we were touch from word perfect and threw them like knife through butter.
Well, Wenger's been absolutely slated for picking Giroud over Sanchez, and I get it because obviously, who wouldn't want to start Sanchez? But actually, when I saw Giroud on the team sheet, I was thinking, oh God, it's going to be one of those games where they go really, but they just don't play to Giroud's strengths. That's the problem.
Well, the mad thing for me isn't picking Giroud over Sanchez. The mad thing is picking Iwobi over Sanchez. If you know what I mean, you could just have Iwobi and Sanchez in there doing what Iwobi's meant to be doing, and he can run off. It's not like he's slow. I mean, and Arsenal, they've ended up in such a strange place, Charles, and we're better than them, and I think we're better than Spurs, and Spurs are playing really well at the minute, and Kane's irresistible, and Ali's playing well, and I understand all of that. But especially Arsenal, though, if they pull the usual gag here and force their way into the top four, certainly if it's at our expense, but also in general, I've seen a fair bit of everyone this season, and they are the 6th best team in the country. Not just when they've played us, but also they haven't hit the heights. Man City have had some games where you've gone, God, these are good, and then the goalkeeper throws it in his own goal. Spurs have played some terrific stuff. You've seen United unbeaten now since the dawn of time and still find themselves in 6th. What I'm saying here is that of all the sides, they really, to me, just look the 6th best Arsenal. They look like there's a bit of a gulf between the other 5 and them, if I'm honest about it.
They do. I think they look 6th best physically and mentally, and I think the problem with Arsenal has always been a bit of a mental block. I still have it in me that I just think they're going to get top 4. It's just because that's what they do. But there is that feeling. I mean, it looks like the Wenger era is coming to the end. There's more backroom problems this year than there has been for a while, with all the problems with Sanchez, a bit with Ozil. So it does. I mean, if any season that they're going to drop out, it's this. But I just can't.
You presume that they're going to find a way. Next week they'll be playing someone who's in the bottom 10. They'll beat them. They'll make it look relatively easy because they're good at that.
Yeah,
it is their biggest test. Wenger's biggest test in a way to see this. I think if I was Wenger, I'd think let me get 4th. Let me prove it one last time and get the fuck out of Dodge here. Because it is a big. If you look to their running, they've got 11 or 12. I think they've got 12 left, but 5 of them are against the top 7, I think. I'm pretty sure I'm right here. They've got one of the hardest of the run-ins, and the balance of aways to homes isn't in their favour particularly either. So, yeah, it's a real test for them. I mean, they are very good at looking down and out. Even the season we nearly won the league in 13-14, we trounced them, we clawed them back, we put them on their knees. They looked finished. In fact, Everton did overtake them at one point.
Everton beat them at home to go above them, I think.
To go above them, they absolutely, and then they just got their heads down. They like being away from the limelight and getting their results. And it's no fluke that Wenger's done this, so anybody writing them off would be nuts. I agree, to this point, very much the 6th best team, but who knows?
I just don't see where, like there's no reaction there on Saturday.
That was strange, wasn't
you know what I mean? There's no, apart from a bit from Sanchez, which we've already referenced, and we now know, the subsequent news as to why there's that, I'm going to take on the world here and batter them all type play from him. He had a point to prove, obviously, but that him aside, there was not much. It's a good finish from Welbeck, but it's more, it feels like when we presented them with a little bit, we mentioned Firmino giving it away, there's no big reaction from Arsenal. You're not under the cosh. Even when that third comes, it's like, big sigh of relief because it's done, and you've seen Liverpool throw away things at times, but it wasn't an Arsenal thing. It wasn't fearing Arsenal. And I don't know. I just think quite a lot of stuff.
Exactly, that's a great way to phrase it. If it's 2-1 and we're playing United and Ibrahimovic and Fellaini and Rooney, if these lads are on the pitch, you're thinking, we're going to be in for it here. Let's just get one Liverpool. Whereas if Arsenal had scored, I'd have, again, hypothetical universe, if you'd have said to me Arsenal are just going to score in a minute, I'd go, so it's a Liverpool cock up then. It's not the idea that someone picks it up from 20 yards and just does the decent thing and puts it in the top corner. You know what I mean? And that's, there was no one, I had fear of no one going into the end of that. And when the third comes, it's glorious. It is a great Anfield goal, by the way.
Yeah, it's
a superb, astonishing, brilliant goal. It's a great celebration. But you're right to say that Arsenal are just, Arsenal, like the game just sort of happened to Arsenal. When Liverpool scored the third, it happens to Arsenal.
They're very passive. They feel like they're very comfortable, the Arsenal team, and that could be because Wenger's been there for so long. It's the same voice over and over again. Even when it was Fergie at United, he consistently changed his backroom staff, so there's new voices. But with Wenger, with Arsenal and Wenger, it just feels like it's all very, very comfortable, very passive, season to season. They're going to be all right, but they're not going to do anything outstanding.
The questions are like top to bottom, Andy, with Arsenal now. I mean, you got half the fans, or however many it is, wanting Wenger out. There's a Wenger out banner again at the game. We see them all on Arsenal TV. I'm not one of the ones who gets stuck into that. I've got no problem with Arsenal TV. You see in a group of fellas who love the club, and when they come out of grounds, when they've been battered and showed no fight, then they're going to be fuming, and that's what Arsenal TV's capturing. Blood. But you know what I mean? It's. I understand why they feel that way, because it must be frustrating when you see a club with those resources, with that ground, with that history, with those teams, all of that, and just year after year it's the same thing. And then if they do finally drop out the top 4, then I don't know. It's got to come. It's got to come to fruition at some point that he isn't the man. He can't be the manager forever. He'll die at some point. For God's sake, do you know what I mean? Though
mortality comes to us all, Gareth.
Do you know what I mean? It just seems ridiculous that it's just like no, we'll rigidly. It's up to him when he jibs it and all this sort of thing. At some point, there's life after Wenger. Same United, life after Ferguson.
The other thing when you say top to bottom, nothing that grabs me that I don't think is being touched upon. I don't know. I think Czech's had a bad 4 months. Every bad, like if Mignolet concedes that first, I've got to calm Gutmann down on this show. You know what I mean? He would call him for everything, and because he's Petr Cech, he's on his arse. He's on his arse. He bounces off his arse to try to save it the second time. That's how crap he is for it. He's that bad. He's scrabbling on the ground because the bad first touch that you reference, he anticipates it like it's an effort. He's gone down, and that's why it's important that he lifts it. It is a good finish under the circumstances. All Czech's trying to do is having cocked up, just trying to make himself that bit bigger, and. For me, it's not the only issue he's had. I think, I just don't think he's had a very good 4 months at all. But because he's Petr Cech, we know everything that he's worn, his history in English football. At the minute, the microscope's not on him, and I think the Sanchez thing on Arsenal and all of this. But I think if that stuff wasn't grabbing the limelight, people would be going, hang on, this fella looks like he's dropped off a bit of a cliff here. And I'm not convinced at all at the moment that he's in particularly good shape. You're going through the middle of the park, they're still playing Coquelin. All the best. What I mean. All the best, lads.
It's all over. Yeah. It's all over, isn't it?
Spends 35 million on Xhaka. Again, if we'd have spent 35 million on Xhaka, every Liverpool supporter in the world would be slaughtering the transfer committee, slaughtering Klopp. 35 million he spent on that prick.
And meanwhile,
he can't tackle.
Sanchez wants to go. Question marks about Ozil. Question marks about their general ambition and willing to spend money, and Wenger's ambition and willing to spend money. And yeah, it's great. It's fantastic that there's so many questions about another club for once.
I remember something Roy Smith once said, which really entertained me, which was that the season that Arsenal bought Ozil and he won the cup, and then the following season and came top 4, and then the following season they bought Sanchez and won the cup and came top 4. And what I mean is, it's never any better. And I don't think that's just the top 4 Arsenal vibe. I just think in general, there's so many other just little issues. This summer they spent, however much they spent on Mustafi. And listen, I think he's a decent player, and I think Koscielny's had a better season because of Mustafi. But they don't look any more likely to win anything. They got done 5-1 at Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
And all the way through, you're going, when does this change? They spent a lot of money on Mustafi, and you could even argue now they could do it buying another centre-half. In the same way, I have this thing that everyone said about us, it's not great that you could maybe say an argument that we should maybe buy a goalkeeper, buy a centre-half, buy a centre-mid, and buy another Mane, i.e. everything we did last summer. Well, you can make the same argument for Arsenal. They could do it buying a better Xhaka. They could do it buying another centre-half. Everything that they've done in the last 3 seasons, they could do it getting another big hitter in attack. Everything they've done the last 3 seasons, they could just do it doing again. Don't get me started on Janssen at Spurs either. He's shite.
He's awful, isn't he? I think last season was quietly a disaster for Arsenal. I mean,
not winning the league last season. Yeah.
The fact that they finished second, or he actually exemplifies why it was so shit. It was so there to be won. Everyone else had gone after you, Arsenal. No, honestly, you win it this year, Arsenal, and they still couldn't find a way to do it. It was dreadful. I don't know. I'm not asked with Arsenal. I want us to finish ahead of them.
I want them to not be our business, but they're going to be, because they're going to do what Charlotte says, which is they're just going to find a way to come back in. I'm annoyed that Arsenal are going to end up being our business because, as I say, I just think we're significantly better at football than them.
Well, I've looked. It's the time of season where I'm seriously looking at the odds on where people finish. We're 4th favourites ahead of them, and I think that's reflected not by. I think the reason we've nudged ahead of them in the rankings, if that is a kind of ranking, is because of their running, and it's tough. And despite the Arsene Wenger algorithm, it's tough for them this time. We just need to keep our nerve, and I know no one's going to be celebrating 4th particularly, but just right now, I think it'd be fantastic for us to end a good season with being
on
that
Charlotte on the celebrating 4th thing or all that sort of stuff. I actually thought there was a funny atmosphere at the ground at the game against Arsenal, and that it was nervy because you know what United have done. You know that Spurs have got Everton tomorrow, and they're obviously going to beat them because Everton are rubbish. They're a myth. They've got United, Man City are at Sunderland, and so there's this feeling of for me, I thought the crowd was noisy at times, but didn't quite get into it, for instance, as much as they did the Spurs game. But then the celebration of the third was like the craziest Anfield celebration all season. It was absolutely mental, I thought. There was limbs, I could see the cop, and there was limbs everywhere. It's funny, isn't it, the way in which it's because of the 4th place thing, it's actually not. it's not as clean an aspect of enjoyment, if you sort of know what I mean. Whereas if you're going for something, if you're going for the league, then everyone is obviously on fire.
Well, I thought it was a strange atmosphere. I thought it was really quiet, but I don't know if it was nervousness or apathy. I don't know. Even when we came out and won, everyone went, "Yeah, well, we've won this, but it's Burnley next week." So it wasn't so much yes, we've beaten Arsenal. Yeah, we did go mad, but I think that the reason that you go, that's the best type of goal, isn't it? When you're thinking, "Oh God, they're going to get a second."
And you can see it from a mile away.
Yeah. So yeah, even before Origi put it in, I knew.
Cap the afternoon. I mean, that's what I mean. Spurs. I came out there thinking, "Wow, we're back here." False dawn that it proved. Arsenal, because we've been hurt so recently, you wouldn't have come out of the ground but for that last goal, going, "Wow, we're back."
Yeah.
Although I'm up for it again. It was a very, very.
You love the battle for top 4 anyway, Joe. You prefer it to the league.
I don't love. Do you know what I like doing? I like being interested to the end of a season. I'm really big about that. I'm really
That's what
about.
it is.
I love going to the game, and you know what? At the end of the season, just imagine it's the last day of the season, and we're either playing for 0 or we're playing to finish and have fun in the Champions League, and we can get 3 points against any. Who is it? The last game.
Middlesbrough at home.
Middlesbrough at home, and you finish it and you've won, and you go, "Do you know what? Let's start planning these aways next season. The Champions fucking League." I talked myself into anything. that one's not
but
that
it's
hard.
right, because it's right. You know, how many
Football, isn't it?
Yeah, but how many times as well have you got to that stage, and it is that last game of the season, or the last month sometimes, or earlier, and there's nothing to play for, and it's just becomes a routine going, and it's like, it's a bit shit this, and then that last day when there's nothing to play for or no meaning to, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's like a crap friendly, and it's like, and then they do the shite thing, walking around the pitch clapping. You've done fuck all, lads. Don't walk around the pitch clapping. Fucking go down the tunnel.
Get your kids off the pitch.
Yeah, get your kids off the pitch. Have a word with each other and say, where the fuck did it go wrong this season? Because I don't want to watch you walking around the pitch. Walk around the pitch at the end with a fucking cup.
Yeah.
However,
Just hit myself in the face.
I'll be on this. I'm sort of with you. I'm laughing at Rob because I watched the end of the Man United game with him at lunchtime, and he was an absolute bag of nerves. He was an absolute wreck. He was a wreck. Rob didn't enjoy it.
1-1.
Yeah, Rob didn't enjoy it at all.
Oh, yeah. Well, I tell you, in the big race for the 4th place cup, Neil, that it wasn't just the win against Arsenal. That's a big swing weekend, because United they were bankers for 3 points. So that whereas I'd say if you're being sensible, a point was the par for Liverpool against Arsenal, given the status of the teams. So our swing on United was a 4-pointer there in terms of the big race. And on Arsenal, it's a 3-point swing. We haven't put those two to bed. We've gained a major advantage over those two in terms of finishing top 4. And it's not, in this season, I'll say this again, it's not just about getting in the Champions League, because I'd get over not being in the Champions League and equally look forward to the Europa. Well, kind of, but it's all no. All right, I'll park that stupid statement for a minute. It's as much about the current Liverpool Klopp project staying on course. We finished 5th or 6th, and everyone's we need to buy players, but there's a few out there who are beginning to murmur about the manager. Then they're talking endlessly about the owners again, and I'm probably exactly one of them. But we finished top 4, and I think we finished with a buoyant attitude, a feel-good factor about the club. We go into the summer looking at the new signings as bonuses. We hit August again going, we can go for the title, never mind anything else.
But there's so much more dough in the Champions League, isn't there? I mean, as much as we sort of, the purist in you doesn't want to talk about, facts and figures and money and balance sheets and all that shite. But it's so important to be in the Champions League. The difference between the dough there and the dough in the Europa League is ridiculous. And the more Liverpool are out of it, the harder it is to ever get there, because there's all these players looking at Liverpool going, well, they haven't been in the Champions League for years. They're finishing 6th, 7th and 8th. Oh, in one season they finished 2nd. Well, fuck that. I'm going here, or I'm going there, or I'm going there. And Liverpool need to get back amongst that elite group regularly and compete with it. Not get there and go, oh yeah, sound Real Madrid. All right, lads, roll out the red carpet and have an easy win.
No, there's that. I agree with you. I'm with you on that. But also, the thing for me is that we're better than Man United and Arsenal.
Yeah.
And that's my thing, is that if this league table does not end up, and we've played better football than both of them, and neither of them are going to hit heights between now and the end of the season. If they do it, if we end up finishing behind either of those two teams, especially, I think it's purely through attritional picking up a point, Charlotte, winning the games that we're not winning, which is why everyone is going, well, it's Burnley next weekend and all of that sort of stuff. But it is purely through just attritionally picking these points up, and that if anything, that does my head in even more. they're not. If they can get through a season without having to hit the heights to finish ahead of us, I'll be furious because we played some great stuff. We're a better side than both of them.
Yeah, the thing with United that is doing that for them is Ibrahimovic, and that is what makes me look at the summer and think we do. I know we've spoken about Firmino, but people like Kane, Ibrahimovic, Lukaku. That's who's picking up the points at this point in the season where they can just bulldoze teams. They can get the goals out of nothing. So I think United are basically wholly reliant on Ibrahimovic.
But they scored for so few goals, and that's where this question gets interesting. With Kane, you're able to say, well, he's got tons and tons himself, and also Ali's chipping in. United, I don't think they've scored 40 goals yet in the league, and everyone else above them's on more than 50, including Arsenal.
Yeah, well,
because he's slow. You've got to play his way. You've got to play football that suits him. I think it'll be interesting if he gets a ban off the elbow at the weekend.
He must do, surely.
If you'd think so, but if they look better, I don't think it helps that one of them's away at Chelsea in the FA Cup, and they could have probably done with him for that one. But I think they might look slicker in attack if they put pace up there rather than having to work with him. There might not be someone who's going to get his return, and this is why this is such an interesting question. That's why you keep coming back to it. They might look better as an attacking unit, Rob. Because I say they haven't scored. They're not free scoring. They're another 1-1 at the weekend against Bournemouth, and he misses a penalty in there that for all that he offers them, which is tons of strength, and wins them a cup single-handedly on the one hand. On the other, if there's a problem with Man United this season, it probably is their attack.
Yeah, I felt coming into the season, and I was worried by their potential. I thought Ibrahimovic would be a bonus player, their Berbatov maybe. He'd come in for spells, but be out for long spells. I thought Rashford would be allowed to pick up where he left off. I thought Martial would continue his progress, and he looked stellar at times last season. And I thought Mkhitaryan would add pace and guile, and I thought that would be a front three to reckon with. And obviously Mkhitaryan had an injury, it took a while getting going, but he's gone with something much more, what's the word?
Agricultural.
Yeah, pragmatic. Mourinho-esque, just, quite...
But not ruthless, which is the usual Mourinho thing, that normally you're able to say, well, he's the ruthless,
I wonder if they lack... Outside of Ibrahimovic, is ironic. I think they lack finishers because the number of times. I mean, I've not. They seem to have drawn about 9 at home all season against make-weight sort of sides. Yeah. The Stokes and the Bournemouth, and there's an endless. I think Hull at home, and funny enough, they all seem to be on when I'm driving and I'm listening to them on the radio, and they have half an hour where they're missing chance after chance after chance in these games, and then they go dead for an hour, and unless Ibrahimovic sticks one in. So I'm wondering if they don't have enough finishers in that team.
Do you think they're suffering as well, though, from what happened to Liverpool? In that, what I mean by that is, remember under Moyes and under Van Gaal, all of a sudden, every week it seemed like the first time someone's won at Old Trafford in 40 years, 50 years, 30 years, 20 years. Everyone started winning there. Everyone started getting wins. And so all of a sudden, that must go into your head the next time you go, I think we can get a result at Old Trafford. We don't have to go there and lie down like we did previously.
And that has happened to them. And I think again, it's the psychological thing. I think it all loops in. I think that you start missing chances because you keep missing chances. You have a reliance on one fella, so you're waiting for this one fella to dig you out. The opposition are more switched on, and that brings us on to Burnley, which is that if ever there's a small team, in inverted commas, because Liverpool don't do it against the small teams, if ever there's a small team this season that Liverpool should be looking to get something against at home, it is Burnley. They've only picked up, I think it's 2 draws on the road. They haven't won another game.
They haven't won, yeah.
They've done really, really well, all things considered, at home, because they look relatively safe at this stage of the season, Gareth. But it is important, very, very important, that Liverpool do capitalise off the back of the Arsenal game, not least because the game after that, we go to Man City, and whilst we've got an excellent record, etc., against the bigger teams this season, at some point you're going to lose one. Just the reality of life is at some point you're going to lose one. So if we can have took 6 points from Arsenal and Burnley, then we're able to sort of go into the City game. It's not quite a free hit. You want to obviously stop them. A draw would be all right, but this Burnley game then becomes critical to these ambitions.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to win it, and I know all that stuff. That I was the same as Charlotte as well. I was in the pub, and all I could hear was loads of people having the same conversation, going, "Yeah, but will they beat Burnley though?" And
we shouldn't be having that conversation in a sense. It should just be wouldn't they go now.
I know. I felt like shaking them all and saying, just enjoy the Arsenal win a little bit first before you turn immediately to that. But loads of them were. But yeah, I mean, we have got to do it, and like it kind of feels you've got to get out of this mindset, I think, and it's what Klopp's been chipping away at all season about. You always refer it to what's come before. So I nearly just said then, And I'll say it now to prove the point, but when I think about Burnley and you're saying they haven't won away all season, I immediately think, how many times have we heard that down the years? Like, a side shit, and they've never done this, and they've never won at Anfield in X number of years. And it almost feels like there's a script that you've gone through so many times. But it's all bollocks, that, because it's a different manager, it's a different set of players. I think the Arsenal win's massive for them. I think the Arsenal win's absolutely massive for them. I think they can all look at each other in the eye now and say, see the way we played there, see the discipline we had. That's what we've got to do this time around. And all right, Burnley might not be very ambitious, but I think some of the things you can take into it are the decision-making thing, the discipline thing, about not just, Charlotte said before about when Liverpool do that thing about they get so far into a match and when it's not working, they just start launching crosses in. Don't do that. Stick to your principles, stick to the way you've been playing, and you'll be all right. Just trust yourselves that it's going to come, and keep it tight at the other end, for fuck's sake.
And it will be important if Lovren's back, then we put him in, because Andre Gray scares me anyway with his pace. And like what happened with Vardy, where Vardy was able to run in behind Lucas. Klavan did play well, but he hasn't got the pace to run back like that. So if Lovren was back, I think I'd feel a bit more confident.
It's football supporter thing to be fatalistic, and I think Klopp made a really interesting point. He said, I noticed when we lost to Leicester, he goes, that's the true face of Liverpool. He says, why when we beat... No, he gave the example. He said, when we beat Man City 1-0 at Christmas, and then drew with Sunderland 2 days later, people went, 2-2, yeah, that's Liverpool all through and through. So why didn't they say us beating City was the true face of Liverpool? And it's that fatalistic belief that ultimately we don't deserve it, it won't happen for us. But the reason it happened, you're right, Gareth, say it's a different club, it's a different set of players, it's a different manager, but the culture is still there. Just as we believe we were invincible for 30 years, we believe we are vincible.
Yeah, but it's also remembering that run of games. What they need to do is they need to make Leicester actually, since they have had that break and it is now the running, they need to make Leicester look like Burnley looked earlier in the season when it looked like an outlier, an aberration. Leicester needs to be made to look an aberration. It's very, very important that happens. The way in which you start doing that is by you get the result against Burnley. Just want to end it by asking you one thing. You're not allowed Sanchez, so Sanchez is ruled out. Which Arsenal player would you have of those who played?
In the form he's at since Christmas, I really like Welbeck, but then again, I wouldn't because of his injury record and all sorts. But I really like Welbeck when he's good.
I'm having Bellerin.
You're having Bellerin?
Yeah.
Pacey right back?
Yeah.
You having?
I quite like Welbeck, even though he's a mank. And I kind of think like he'd be an handy one for us to have around and on the bench, and he's one that I think performs well coming off the bench. So he's different. He's an option. He's a bit, I don't know. He's a mad player, I think. I can't, I don't know how he gets past players sometimes. I don't know how he scores the goals that he does sometimes. He doesn't look, I don't know.
His movement's good and he's quick.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean though about that?
I know what you mean.
Okay.
He's weird.
Him, anyway. I'm not explaining that very well, but
Out of Oxlade-Chamberlain. I think
that's a good shout.
Good player, works really hard. Plays strong,
like
strong pace. He plays a number of different positions. It's interesting. Whilst you've gone for a right back, none of you have gone for a centre half. And I will be reminding Rob Gutmann between now and the end of the season that he didn't go for Petr Cech, and he's happy. He prefers Simon Mignolet to Petr Cech.
It was in my head, but you slagged him off, so I couldn't.
Huge couple of good saves from the Mick.
Side that Mick plays well.
I'm blaming you for that for the goal.
Oh. I'm a bit.
Nice
I think
one,
he could have
you.
done better. Yeah.
I think it's hard when it's above your shoulder.
I think Klavan could have got that as well.
He could be a bit bigger.
Down.
He could be a bit. No, he does go down a bit too quickly. But let's get off the Migs back for 1 week if we can, Rob. It's hard enough diving round at the best of times.
Enjoy the
you
week.
all on his
Enjoy
back.
the week, Simon.
Enjoy the week, Simon. Listen next week.
It's his birthday today.
Is it?
Happy birthday, Simon.
Happy birthday, Simon Mignolet. We'll dedicate this podcast to you, and it was brought to you by The Numbers. Huge thank you to Gareth Roberts, to Rob Gutmann, to Charlotte Campbell for coming in and having a chat with us on this Monday lunchtime. Liverpool go to Arsenal, 3 of our goals, 1 of their goals. We do the business, the Reds move on, march on. Don't be scared of Burnley. That is the wrong mentality to have. I'll guarantee that for you right now, and that's the Anfield wrap.